Shotguns are certainly powerful. The legendary 12-gauge shell is capable of incredible ballistic feats, utilizing slugs, buckshot, sabot shells, buck and ball, flechette, and even dragon's breath rounds. Is there anything more devastating than a 12-gauge shotgun blast at point-blank range? Shotguns, however, are also capable of great versatility. And focusing only on the power potential can leave your shooting experience a bit one-sided. Blasting big holes with a semi-auto extended mag 3-inch chambered 12 gauge is certainly an adrenaline-fueled rush. But many forget the more subdued side of shotguns. The side your kids can join in on. The side your shoulder will thank you for. The side that offers a new and interesting challenge to your trap game. Let's take a look. Serp Garage. Here we are, back again with Stevens. Boy, we've been on a Stevens kick lately, huh? This time, the Model 94C in 410 bore circa 1950. This is a break action, single shot with a 26-inch full choke barrel. These were made from 1937 all the way to 1984. So we are right on the heels of our video on the Stevens 94H, which was a 20 gauge. And this one's a 1970. And this taught me how fun it can be to deviate from the popular 12 gauge guns and how refined the smaller bore guns can feel. So I loved this thing and had an eye out for some more. So when I saw this one on the table at a local gun show, I grabbed it. And I'll tell you, gas to and from the show and the admission fee might have cost more than the price of this shotgun. So how can you just walk right by? You know, sometimes they choose you, and that definitely was the case here. So the 94H, we spoke a lot on the Savage Stevens Company history. So you can check there for that, on that video for that info. I like that video. And I'll have a link down below in the video description. But here I thought we'd mix it up a little bit and it'd be nice to do like a bit of a comparison and utilize some of what we learned in that video to gather some more info on the 94C. All right. So first of all, let's take a close look at it here. This wood, first of all, right? This wood is so nice. So after getting it home, I did a nice BLO treatment on it. And man, it came out with that satin finish. If you know how, like if you got a nice wood specimen and you do the BLO, it's like a few coats, and as you're sitting there watching TV, you rub it in, and it gets hot when you rub it fast, and it soaks in, and it has this like satin feel to it if the wood is good, and it has that feel. 1950, what a perfect time for some pretty wood. You know what I'm saying? It's like perfect age, so this action, right? This is like sheer break action perfection. It really is. The release lever, right? It swings either way. So this makes it left hand, right hand friendly, right? And it has this automatic ejector and the safe hammer system. We spoke about that in the 94H video. So for lack of a better name, the safe hammer system, right? It prevents most accidental discharges from most inadvertent hammer slips or strikes. So, meaning, if you're going to cock it and your finger slips off, or if it's just sitting like this somewhere, like in the back of your pickup truck or somewhere, and it gets hit, the hammer gets hit, right? So, with this system, right, the trigger has to be depressed. So there's a mechanism inside where the trigger has to be all the way depressed for the hammer to travel into this position to hit the firing pin. Without the hammer depressed, without the trigger depressed, it has like a blocker in there. So this system is very safe for a passive system. Essentially, the safety is to leave it uncocked, which is easy as it's the normal state the gun is in during the loading process, right? So it doesn't cock on, it doesn't automatically cock upon opening, is what I mean. So you have to, manually cock this gun to fire it every time you load it. So it's when you just close it, it's just automatically in that safety position, which is why I would call it passive. The technical name for this type of hammer is a rebounding hammer, meaning that when you fire it, so if you pull the trigger, say it's cocked, and you pull the trigger, it goes all the way down, hits, and then will rebound to this spot into that safe position, which is why they call it rebounding. It is a pretty cool action. I mean, for as old as these things are, when these things were invented, that is just an excellent safety system. You don't need any switches. You don't need any buttons. You don't have to worry that when you go to pull the trigger, there's a safety that was inadvertently actuated when you didn't want it to be. You know what I'm saying? If it's cocked, it'll fire. If it's not cocked, it's safe and super safe. You can like kick this thing around the block. And they must have learned from experience with hammers getting hit, hammers slipping off fingers. I mean, that's how they learned what improvements needed to be made. And as rudimentary, cheap, and seemingly, like bare bones as these things are, they have this awesome system. And these 410s, let me tell you, the slender barrel, the light weight, and this big, huge, bright barrel bead, they make for a very pointable shotgun with a very easy to acquire sight picture. See what kind of variants were available for this 94C. So as you can see, let's break this down. This could get a little complicated, but let's break it down. Barrel length, gauge, chamber size, butt plate, and weight were all dependent on gauge. And some takeaways here are 12 gauge models were full choke only. They were available in 28, 30, 32, and 36-inch barrels, with the 30, 32, and 36 barrels as 12 gauge exclusively. So if you see that barrel length, it's going to be 12 gauge. And if you want one in those barrel lengths, that's it. You're just stuck with 12 gauge. 12 gauges were also the only gauge option that had both 2 3/4 and 3-inch chambers available. All others were 3-inch only. And of course, those could also use 2 3/4. The 36-inch barrels were called the long tom models, long tom barrels. All right. Now the 16 gauge and 20 gauge were full choke and 28-inch barrels exclusively. So you didn't have as many options with those, the 16s or the 20s. Now the 410 bore, that was a 26-inch barrel and full choke exclusively, except for there was a 94Y youth model. So this is where a lot of those, a lot of, information gets kind of tossed around. Like, no, they made this. No, they made that. It's like these youth models are what adds the confusion. The youth model was available in 20 gauge and 410 bore exclusively, right? And the 410 was the same 26-inch full choke barrel, but the 20 gauge had a 26-inch modified choke barrel, the only one of its kind with modified. The only one of these that has a modified is the 20 gauge 26-inch youth model exclusively. Now, a physical difference with the youth model is what Stevens calls its shooter stock, and the addition of a recoil pad to replace the hard rubber butt plate is another identifier. I'm assuming the shooter stock is dimensionally smaller, as weight is listed at least a half a pound less for the youth model. Yeah, here it is with this ad for these 940, and you could clearly see the stock is much shorter. I'm sure the 940s followed suit with the same mods. Well, so while we got a photo of the model 940 up here, I might as well explain what this is. The model 940 is a sister model to the 94. These were made from 61 to 70. They featured a side lever release. Okay, so they didn't have the top lever. It was like a thumb side lever deal. And while they seem otherwise identical, I have read detailed accounts, which are pretty reliable, that barrels do not interchange while some other parts do interchange. So use caution when you're buying replacement parts. Don't think that they are the same. Everything is the same, because it's not necessarily so. Also, an interesting factor when searching auction listings or reading gun show tags for these is the 94C and the 94D are often mislabeled as 940s due to misreading the receiver markings. Like this guy right here, this auction right here, this is clearly a 94C. And also, and it just looks like 940 to the people, So they write it on the tag, they advertise it that way. I'll tell you, let's see, like that's a secret looking for these specific ones is to, if you don't see the 94C you're looking for, let's say, just searching for 940, you might find the one you're looking for. And also there's secrets like that. Like, here's another tidbit. Always search for wrong listings, because you could often find listings that aren't getting much traffic, right? So that could open up a bargain for you. Like an example, one example is this 94C right here that says youth in the title, but that would be a 94Y. So if this was indeed a youth gun, the fact that 94Y is not in the listing could cause a 20 gauge modified example, let's say, to slip through the cracks, right? And it could end up in your hands. The fact that it's listed as a 20 gauge could also play a factor. I search for the word gauge all the time because those auctions almost always end with one bid or no bids, because it limits traffic. Boy, I'm giving away some tricks here. I gotta stop. All right, I can imagine that this array of options on these made this a very popular choice in 1950, right? Because there's so many different options for gauges and barrel sizes and stuff. But the fact that they all kind of like just filter down to full chokes says a lot, you know what I mean? But as for a utilitarian shotgun, where the different gauge options could be tailored to different game for hunting, let's say, that's what they were really, used for. So instead of like messing with every single little choke variation, which costs manufacturers a lot to make them, they would be able to lower costs by not offering many choke options, but offering many gauge options for being able to tailor the gun for what you're using it for. So in modern use, this shotgun can be used with birdshot, number 4 or 5 shot, slugs, just as it was intended for. But one cool aspect is the newer, hard-hitting specialty ammo can offer a bit more punch than what was available in 1950. And I would assume these guns would be able to handle it. And these types of ammo exist mainly because of pistols like the Judge that chamber 410, but you'd be able to take advantage of using interesting ammo like that. So let's look at dating this example. We've been here before. Here's the date chart. So from 1949 to 1970, we love our inspector mark on there. I always get lucky. I've seen a few of these where I won't even buy them. They don't have that inspector mark. I like that 1949 to 1970 window. And the B in this example dates us to 1950. And again, the 94H, its sister over here, has that same mark that we're dating to 1970, the last year that it had that mark. And what's amazing is from 50 to 70, 20 years, not much of a difference between these guys. They're pretty much the same. They certainly function exactly the same. But even if you look, like say, you look in here in the fore ends, let's say, right? The mechanism. Look at it. There's like hardly anything changed. It's almost like these things were so perfect right out of the gate that they didn't need any modification through the years. When they did it right, they did it right. While we're taking things apart, let's take it apart. Let's show how simple it is to break this thing down. There you go. There's your camping accessory right there. How awesome is that? I mean, what's simpler? You expect see like mechanism in here, and there's nothing. Just the release lever, just moves the release arm. That's it. The barrel, there's some interesting mechanism in here that you can kind of look and see how the ejector works. The ejector is pretty cool. Although you'll see during my shooting with this particular ammo I was using, it wasn't really ejecting them. It was just kind of popping them out a little bit. But it's not a fault of this thing. As a matter of fact, let's do some snap cap work here. So these are our new shotgun snap caps that I've been messing with. The shell is a small bore when you could fit 5 of them inside of a bird. I mean, this is what we're shooting at, and we're using. You can imagine how difficult it is. Wait till we get to the shooting. These are Artemis snap caps. I love these things. These things are great. No channel sponsorship as of yet, but I mean, who knows? What's nice about them is, look, they come with like a little tool that's in here. Where's the little tool? There it is, down on the bottom there. Comes with a little tool. It's kind of like the thing that you pop open your cell phone SD card with. And it has like pre-perforated circles here to replace these silicone primers if they should get messed up, which is kind of cool. But in my experience, I don't really see those silicone primers getting messed up. These things seem to last forever. What happens with these things is they just get chewed up, and then they don't go in and out of the bore right, and they get, especially with like pump actions or stuff like that, they get all stuck and hung up, and they don't work their way through magazine tubes, things like that. But this plastic seems really good. This seems like the kind of plastic that's pretty durable. And I got some 12 gauges too, and they've held up. So far, so good. So good stuff. I like them. So I'll show you how it's not the gun's fault. Like I said, these things, I mean, it's not like they're sticking in the bore here, and it shoots them like boom. I mean, you could get hurt. You could take an eye out with just the shell popping out of these things. You got to be careful that it doesn't go right out into your face when you open it, because they do shoot out with some force. But like I said, the 410s that I had, where are they? Here. This is what I was using. These Federals. This is what I shot the round with. And this is what they look like. This is how, let's go this way. It's a little bit easier for me to do this way. See, they're just like, and this isn't, I mean, these are fire formed now, but even just putting them in, they felt a little bit of resistance. And then, of course, when you're opening, they just kind of do that for you, which is better than nothing. It's better than having to pry it out with my fingernail. But again, I wouldn't fault the gun for that. I think it's just the type of ammunition. And speaking of types of ammunition, I always forget to show these. Years ago, I found this Russian Golden Bear stuff, right? I found it at a gun show, and I just bought a bunch of it, and I didn't even know what I was buying. Like, I didn't know I thought it was just 410 shells, and I was like, well, those are pretty cheap. So I just bought up like a bunch of boxes. I would have bought the guy's whole stash if I would have known that they're like this. Like, how cool is that? Now, they're not, I thought originally they were all brass, but they're not. It's brass plated steel. So I'm not sure if they're reloadable. I know brass ones would be, but I don't know. That's just awesome, though. And I never shot at you, but I just kind of like the way that looks, But there's a trick you could use. 444 Marlin brass. What you need to do is, I know this is all dog-eared. I was looking at it. The 410 bore Wikipedia page is awesome. It has a lot of cool information on here. And they talk about how the 444 Marlin rifle cartridges can be used or modified or something to reload 410 shells in brass. But there's some stuff to it. It's not that easy. And you have to be careful. Like, don't think, oh well, if that's the case, I could fire 444 Marlins through here. No, you will completely detonate it. All pressures are all different and everything. And speaking of pressures, on this page you can see some interesting stuff. Like, the maximum pressure for 2.5-inch 410 shells is 12,500. And the maximum pressure for 3-inch shells is 13,500. Not that much of a difference. And even if you look down here so you can compare here, make a direct comparison, because they have quarter round slugs for 2.5-inch and 3-inch. So that's a direct comparison for the exact same weight of slug, let's say, right? So it's not different size shot, different amount of shot. It's a direct comparison, and the velocity, 1780 feet per second to 1800 feet per second. It's a difference of 20 feet per second. It's not really, that's so, like, it's nothing. It's not really that much of a difference. It's not like the difference between 2.75-inch and 3-inch, like 12 gauge shells, let's say. There's a huge difference there, And then even when you compare these comparisons down here to with the different amount of shot, it's not really that much of a difference. What you notice is that the 3-inch shells, it might be a little bit more shot, right? But it's a whole lot slower. So that's why with trap, it gets a little weird because you're like, well, let me use these 3-inch shells. I'm throwing more shot out there. I'll have a better chance of hitting it. But then what happens is it's going slower. So now your lead changes and it becomes more difficult in that respect. I've always felt, well, at least in my experience, that faster was better than more shot. Because with faster, it was kind of like at least you could aim right on it. Whereas with more shot, yeah, you're throwing more at it, but it's harder to be accurate, if that makes any sense. But look at this page, a lot of info. Now check this out. It is pretty cool. There's a whole lot going on with 410, with 45 Colt and all that stuff. It's a lot of interesting information to knock around with. One day maybe we'll do just a 410 shell video, But these shotguns there, they have a really cool use. Like if you use them for what they're supposed to be used for, they're awesome. But well, let's just talk about. We'll get into that a little bit later. Again, when we get to the shooting video. Yeesh, that emotionally scarred me. Emotional damage. So as far as patents go, here's another interesting thing about this guy. There's several pertinent patents assigned to Savage himself, right? But there is a patent from George Lewis that's a little bit interesting, and we knocked around with this one because George G.S. Lewis here, he made a lot of he had a lot of patents for Savage, and then we were looking at this one, right? And we were like, yeah, it's the extractor patent when we had the 94H out, and then I realized that this is assigned to Winchester. So that threw a whole loop. I tried to do some research to really find out, was this what Savage used? Was there a connection between Savage and Winchester with sharing this patent? And I really wasn't able to come up with enough information to put it out here. There was some stuff that maybe corroborated that, some stuff against it. But this I can tell you. I can tell you that, and that patent was 2-108-130 from 1938. And again, it's an extractor mechanism patent. But finding an all-encompassing design patent for this model is difficult, to say the least. And researching with the help of AI, all right, so now we have a whole new aspect here in our research. It's me and the information. That's how it always has been. Just me and the information I'm looking for. Now it's me, the information, and artificial intelligence that's like, hanging over my shoulder. Because even when you do Google searches, you're getting these artificial intelligence answers, So artificial intelligence tells me that no single patent exists for these. That's what it says. It's hard to believe that, but it directs me to a 1908 patent granted to Mr. Joshua Stevens himself. That is patent number 810571. Man, that is old. And which, upon examination, this might very well actually be the origin of this design. So thumbs up to AI right there. It seems like it's been around forever. And, who knows, maybe it has. But I think this might be like part of the reason I have trouble a lot with these patents is like I'm looking around the era for when something originated, whereas maybe some of these patent designs were actually from 20, 30, 40, 50 years before even. And I'm not going back that far, or just don't even have the ability to do that much research to go back that far, So I guess the next step is for us getting this thing out in the field and patterning it and taking a trip out to the range. So what I did, I had it was a day where suddenly the ability to go to the range just opened up. Been very busy lately. So the ability to head to the range just materialized, and I grabbed some stuff. I didn't have my normal target. I had made it up. It was already at home, but I didn't have it with me. I had to buy a patterning target. It was cloudy. It was windy. It was a horrible day for shooting. Nobody was there. And I did the shooting before I did the patterning. But I'm going to show you the patterning here first. All right, we're patterning. We forgot our microphone. Forgot everything. Maybe today we'll put 4 into there just to get a better idea. We forgot our targets. We forgot everything. We got a different target. All right. 4 rounds. Then you can open the box. What a day. All right. Take a look at what we got. Well, looks maybe slightly left, but the spread is just so crazy that it's all we really got on the clay. It's like we would be peppering them and not breaking them, even if we were on target. And that's, welcome to 410 land. It was very weird to see that it patterned so good, because I would have bet money that I was going to be way off with this one on the patterning. But man, these things, both of these, the 20 gauge and this one, man, these things are pretty on the money. You saw I was pulling a little left, but that's not enough to really mess things up. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not shooting trap with 410s anymore. These things just are not made for trap. It's just frustrating. I'm not even going to show you this whole shooting video, I doubt. I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit here and play the shooting video underneath me, but I can't. I got a 4. Okay, so it's not frustrating for me to shoot a 4. It's actually very challenging. I was noticing the ones I did hit. So station 5, I think I got a couple, because I started changing it up a bit. You literally have to jump. I mean, the puller is important. This puller is good. You got to get that timing right. So like when you're when you're calling for the bird, you have to have that timing right, because it could leave the house by like 2-3 feet and you have to be shooting. You literally have to be hitting it right off the top of the house, because if you wait even a second, it's over. It's over. I have a feeling that I'm even peppering them. I have a feeling that if you went and found those birds, if they didn't break when they hit the ground, that you would see shot peppering them. I'm shooting 9-shot here, and there's not much of it. They're teeny little pellets, and they're not going very fast, and they're spread out, and it's not getting hit by like 10 pellets or 8 pellets. If it's getting hit by just a couple, and they're not breaking the bird. Look at how these things are strong. I got it in my hand right now, and I'm feeling it. It's not like it's falling apart if I torque it or bend it or try to crack it. It's like you really gotta. It's not easy to break those things. So I think that's what's happening a lot, and it's if you could jump on them right away, you could break them. But I guess the challenge is I might shoot some of these myself, just knocking around to play around when I go to shoot trap. But when I feature these 410 shotguns, I don't even know if I'm going to take them to the trap range anymore, because who wants to see me shooting a 4? I mean, that's like, could there be anything more boring? I lose enough viewers around this time through a video. And by the way, if you're hanging in there and you're still here, hit the thumbs up button for me. Because listen, if you're still here at this point, don't you have to give a thumbs up? Otherwise, you'd be gone already. Exactly. So I love shooting them. So even if I'm not hitting anything, I just like shooting them. So I had fun with it, but it was a rough day. It was just everything was going wrong that day. So if I don't seem all that happy, I apologize. Oh, and on the first shot, I realized that I didn't have my ears on. So I had my ears ringing the whole game from that first shot. These things are made for pest control. What's the word? There were 2 things. I can't remember the other thing. Wait, hold on. Let me get my paper out and see what they say these things are good for again. So yeah, they say suited for small game hunting and pest control. They're definitely not saying, like trap, skeet, sporting clays. None of those words are in the description. And they recommend, like, even the game that you would shoot would be like rabbits, squirrels, snakes, rats, birds. It wouldn't even be like humane to try to shoot like a big turkey with one of these. You know what I mean? Considered well suited for survival arms, emergency use. You know what I mean? That's why I like, our Model 24, the Savage Model 24, the over-under, that we have one of those. We've got a video up for that too. Maybe I'll throw a link to that video down in the bottom too, if you want to check it out. And there's a snake charmer break action gun. So they say they're perfect for fishing, hunting, camping, backpacking, home defense. That's interesting, because if you put a slug in one of these, slugs are 45 caliber. This is like same as a 45 caliber handgun, round. But of course, with this guy, home defense, single shot, I don't know. Maybe not such a great idea. It's not that you can't do it. It's that if you miss, you're going to look kind of funny standing there with that thing in your hand. You know what I mean? You better be ready to start swinging it like a baseball bat. So do I love it? I love it. I do. I love it. It's just not. I don't really show. I don't have the right venue to really show how cool this thing would be. I need like a Hickok 45 blinking range and a box of slugs to really have fun with this guy, or that's what it's good for. It's good for anything but trap, basically, and then I'm shooting trap with it. I encourage you to get a 410, to get some form of 410 shotgun. And you know what? The coolest thing about it is is that it's as minimalistic as a shotgun can be. If it was any less of a shotgun, it would disappear. Right? It's like the 410 is the smallest. And here, one other thing. I'm glad I mentioned this because somebody in my comments was like, "Well, you said the 410 is the smallest shell, but that's not true because there's the 9mm Flowbert." He was talking about the Flowbert one. And there's a bunch of other smaller ones, European stuff mostly. Yes, it's not the smallest. That Flowbert one is really cool. That's pretty interesting. It's rimfire. Check that out. So even 22 rimfire has shotgun shells. So it's true that it's not the smallest. But what I mean when I say the smallest is that it's the smallest in regular use. It's the smallest that you could just walk down to the corner gun store and buy a box of shells. So that's what I mean by smallest. So it's the smallest shell in the tamest type of action. Just this break action is like just you know, the mildest round, the mildest type of action. And it's so light and compact. The fact that it breaks down, it's like as minimalistic, as tame as a shotgun can be. And most people that are like, oh, how tactical can you make it? How large can the shell be? How much more powerful can you make it? How many rounds can I fit in the magazine tube? Let's put an extension on the magazine tube. Let's put a breacher choke on it. Let's do this. Let's do that. Anything to make it more of a shotgun. Let's build it up to be more. And it's kind of cool to see what is it when you just put it all away. You just get back down to how tame can we make it? What is the starting point? What is Shotgun 101? And that's what this thing is. That's exactly what it is. And I highly recommend having one of these things. Believe it or not, I shot a 4, and I'm telling you that you got to have one. That's how cool it is. That right there should tell you how cool it is. And on that note, sorry it's been a while. Things got crazy. Life got in the way. Life got in between me and you guys. But I got another cool one on the way. And in the winter things just slow down. That's what happens. Like it's we're in the off season. We're in the off season, but constantly the wheels are constantly turning, and I got a really cool one on the way. This one's going to need some nice research. I want to do this one nice. It's been a long time coming. The next video, you guys are going to love it. And until then, y'all take care, keep shooting, and get yourself a 410 shotgun.